Okay, so we'll just learn today Git and GitHub. Okay, so before learning the GitHub, we need to understand something on the version control and source code management. So I think most of you might have worked on some sort of version control, like either SVN or CVS or Git or something, right? So first you need to understand what is version control and what is the source code management. What is the version control? Version control is the practice of tracking and managing changes to software code. Version control systems are software tools that help software teams manage changes to source code over time. And the systems help version control systems help software teams work faster and smarter. They are specifically useful for DevOps team since they help them to reduce development time and increase successful deployments. Okay, so they are especially useful for DevOps team since they help them to reduce the development time. We'll be using the version control, we'll be using the repository systems because as a DevOps engineer, we have to write the code, the automations, right? So that automation code, whatever you write, you have to make it as version control. You store all these things in the source code management. So that is most important to learn the version control. So Git is now popular in the market. Okay. And what we say here, it keeps track of every modification to the code in a special kind of database. If a mistake is made, developers can turn back the clock. Okay, just give me a second, one second. Okay, so what it says, it keeps track of every modifications to the code in a special kind of database. If a mistake is made, developers can turn back the clock and compare the earlier versions of the code to help fix the mistake while minimizing the disruption to all team members. Okay, so we'll see in details what is this point. So that is the version control. What is the source code management? Source code management is used to track modifications to a source code repository. And source code management tracks a running history of changes to a code base and helps resolving the conflicts when merging updates from multiple contributors. Okay, so importance of source code management. So when multiple developers are working within a shared code base, when multiple developers are working within a shared code base, it is a common occurrence to make edits to a shared piece of code. Separate developers may be working on a seemingly isolated feature. However, this feature may use a shared code module. Similarly, why the source code management is important? Suppose there will be 4 developers are working or 4 DevOps engineers are working the different parts. So you are working, Murthy suppose working in feature 1 and suppose Kishore is working in feature 2 or something. And I'll be working on some other module or different feature. To manage all this code together, make sure that there will be no disturbances, no disruptions, and nothing. We have to make sure that we are using the source code management. Okay, so that is the importance of the source code management. So what is Git? The source code management, when we are talking about the Git, is the most highly used version control system in the market now. Most of the companies are using Git. every companies, I could say, every companies are using Git nowadays. Git is a distributed version control system. Git has functionality, performance, security, and flexibility that most teams and individual developers need. It has been designed to support branching and tagging as first-class citizen, unlike SVN, and operations that affect branches and tags. Git is a very well-supported open source project. It is a open source application. So tool you can use to create your application locally, you create your repository locally. Git will be used as a distributed version control system, and it will be installed in your local machine. And you can store your code, source code management. You can perform the source code management locally on your machine. What is the GitHub? Git will install locally on your machine, and we can use the Git client CLI to interact with the Git source code repository. What is the GitHub? GitHub is a web-based version control. This is a distributed version control, but locally on the desktop or laptop, you have to install it on a server. But this is a web-based version control and collaboration platform for software developers, and it facilitates social coding by providing a web interface to the Git code. So whatever we are using in the Git locally, that will be stored in the GitHub remotely, so that we can share the codes among all the developers, all the regions. Everywhere we were working on the same code, same project, can use the code and start working. So GitHub can be bought, can be thought of as a serious social networking site for software developers. Any software developers or any DevOps engineer can share their code and can work together, right? It is a cloud-based remote repository system. It is a cloud-based remote repository system. It offers the distributed version control and source code management system. It offers the distributed version control and source code management functionality of Git. Plus its own features, it provides access control to the several collaboration features such as bug tracking, feature requests, task management, continuous integrations, and all this. So how will get this GitHub? So you have to just go and log in to the GitHub site, github.com. Okay, this github.com, and you have to register. It is totally free, guys. Okay, it is an open source free, so you have to sign up yourself. Just it's very simple sign up. Okay, it does not require any credit card or debit card or anything. It's simply okay. You have to just put your email address. Continue. I'm not going to do it. I already have registered. Okay, so once you register the GitHub, okay, you will find a page like this. Okay, let me first start this server. And so if you just type GitHub, okay, as I have already created my account and I have already logged in to the GitHub. So you can see this is the dashboard and this is the page of your GitHub account. Okay, and as it is a remote web-based repository system, remote web-based application or web-based repository systems, you can see all your repositories as I have already logged in. I have multiple repositories created. Multiple repositories I have created. This is my repository. I have 32 repositories created and stored here. Okay, so many things are private, which the private project I am working, and many things are also public. Many things are private and many things are public. So these public things you can access it. Whatever repository, whatever the code I have kept in my repository as public, you can also access it. Okay, so these are the things available. So once you log in, I'll show you when we do our GitHub class, right? When I do our GitHub class, that time I'll show you how we can follow the create repository and how we can work on the side. For the time being, don't worry about this. First, register yourself on the GitHub. First, sign up and create one account, user ID and password, then save it somewhere, and you are going to use whole in your career, in DevOps career, okay? DevOps and cloud career, you are going to use this GitHub. So first sign up, my account is Ranjit for GitHub. Similarly, you have to create an account and keep it. Now, this is the remote repository system. You have to sign up. It is already there. Now, how will you use the local Git? How will you use the Git, right? Let me show you how we can install the Git. It will be very simple to use it. Okay, so it is asking me to log in. Let me log in quickly. So if I do scm-git, right? Sorry, it is not scm-git, it is git-scm. So this is the website of Git. This is the Git website, okay? Official website where you can download the Git distributed software to anywhere, right? To anywhere. You can download for Mac, you can download for Windows, okay? For Linux, everything for Linux, you can, how you'll use for Linux, you can just go ahead and get it. So these are the companies these are the very minimum companies they have listed who are using the Git. But I could say almost every companies they are using Git. Okay, almost every company they are using Git for the source code management. Okay, now if I go, let me show you how you can install it and follow this one. And it has the documentation page also, guys. It has the documentation page. Follow this documentation page and you'll find a reference book, right? Follow this reference manual and you'll find lots of things here, right? Lots of things. Let me just ping you this one and keep it handy so that you can use whenever it is required. Okay? Put it here. Done. Now what you can do here, we have this setup and config, how you'll do Git self, everything is there. So leave it, I'll just show you one by one. Don't worry about this once we do unfollow this one because we cannot cover each and everything, right? I'll just give one from each part. So the rest of the part you have to do by yourself, okay? Now, let's move on and try to install Git on our machine. So my server is, you can install in your MacBook, you can install in your Windows and anything. Now I'm going to install in the Linux machine, okay? I'll just show you. Now let me just, okay. So what I can do, SSH, okay. Good. So I log in. So how you'll install the Git? It will be very simple. Use sudo yum install Git. That's all. Only single command. Same thing you can do for Ubuntu. You can do for CentOS. You can use for Ubuntu. You can use sudo apt install Git. For CentOS, you can use sudo yum install Git. Okay. So I just hit enter. Now Git is getting installed on my machine. Now this Git version is installed. So let's go ahead and check. If I do Git, I can help. See, it will give me all the Git commands. Clone init, no. Okay. So how we can make a repository? How we can create a repository locally? Suppose I have, 1 second, guys. Yeah, so what we have to do here, we just need to create a repository. So now we have installed all these things. And if you want to get the details about the commands, you can just do git -h or -h or -help. You can find all the informations, the commands, clone command, init command, and odd, all these things. Okay. Now, the point is how we'll create a repository, right? Now, this is the folder, this is the directory I have. I don't have anything here. Now, I want to create a project. Suppose I'm working on, suppose, one of the HR application. I'll just create a directory, suppose called HR of, suppose first this is person something the application name you gave. Okay, I created here. Let me go to that folder, and I just want to make this directory as my repository. I want this directory to be a repository. So I created the directory and went inside it. And then you have to simply execute git init. Git init. Okay. Hit enter. So what happened here? It just initialized empty git repository. This repository has now become my, this directory has now become my local repository. Okay, now if I do here, nothing will be there. Okay, but if I do ls-la to check the hidden files, we have that git is folder is created. Okay, so now this directory has become the now my repository. I created an empty repository. Now, if I want to put a file inside it, okay, if you want to check the branch details, which branch you are, the branching technique and everything we'll learn. Don't worry about that. Okay. Now let me show you some commands. So you have to, after you install Git, okay, and we have covered. So the version, if I use Git version to check which Git versions are you are there, Git-v 2.38 Git version. That is very simple. Now to initialize the repository, okay, you have to first use git init to initialize or create a repository. To initialize or create a repository, you have to use git init. And then to set up the user details globally. And if you want to set up the user details, you have to use git config. Then how you use this command? If you go to this reference page, right, we have this git command, and here we have the config. Just go and get this config, git config. Okay, and here you'll get all the details how you'll use the git config command. Okay, all the informations are available here. See, git config, show git config details, all the examples are there. Okay, so I'm using this git config now to set up the user details globally for the local repository. So what I'll do here now, I'll just use git config. Okay, git config, and let me copy this one. -global user.name Ranjit Swai. I'll tell you why we need to set up this. Why we need to set up this. Now let me change this. Okay, now I set it up the name and email ID of the person who is working on this local repository. Good. Why we need these configurations to be there? See, whenever you are working on any source code management, the version control, your details should be there while you are updating or creating something in the repository. Because sometimes, because we are in a team, we will be working multiple people, right? Who has done what? How will know? It will be difficult. Again, it will be quite take some time if you don't specify your name and email address to them. Okay. Now, if I add something here, let me just create a file. Okay, let me just create a file. Suppose I'll create vi test.txt or test.cpp, suppose C++ file. CPP, something I wrote it here. Okay. Done. Now, in this repo, I created one file. Okay, I put one project, put one source code here. So I can check what is the status of the local repository. What is the status? You can just do git status. If you do git status, it will give you on the branch master. This is the file which is untracked. This is the file which is untracked. Nothing is added. Only you have just added one file, and you have to. It is an untracked, and if you want to make it to track first before committing it to the repository, you have to first track it or stage it. Okay, so you have to add. See, it is giving the instruction here also. You have to use git add. Now you have to type git add. After you are adding any file or creating or modifying any file, you have to every time before committing, you have to unstage it by using git add. Okay, you can do git add file name, or you can give dot. So if you give file name, that means you are adding the single file. You are adding the single file. If you are adding, so if you are giving the file name, if you're giving the file name here, that means you are adding the single file. If you're giving dot, that means whatever the files are modified or created or updated, everything will be shifted to track area, track files. Okay. Now hit enter. Now if I do git status, see, it gives changes to be committed. This is untracked file. Use git add to include whatever is the tested. Now changes to be committed, and you have to change this commit. Now you can use the command after this add. Okay, we can use git commit -m. I can just, you have to give a message. Remember, guys, this message is most important. This message is most important. Why? Because in your team, as we are working as a team, the person who wants to know something, what is written, can easily find it out from this comment. Whatever the changes has been made. Before committing, make sure you should have given meaningful message there. Okay, meaningful message. Suppose I can give us created new CPP file, something like this. Hit enter. So if you hit enter, after that, what happens? The file is now committed and it is changed to the local repository. Let me clear it out. If I do git status now, git status, nothing is there, nothing to commit. The working tree is clean. That means whatever the file we have updated, it is in local repository, it is available and it's up to date. To see what was done, you can use git log, git logs. Sorry, git log, not logs, git log. See, when I do git log, what it keeps, that is the first commit is done by Akhil Ranjit Swain, and this is the email ID, date, this date, and what are the changes? See, it is giving the message here. It is giving the message here, created new CPP file. So this person has created a new file. It is giving the details. Okay. Similarly, if tomorrow Suppose another user might have worked with this file with his name, and if you want to check the logs who has done some changes, you can easily find it out. Okay, so the naming configuration is must. Okay, you should have done. So don't worry, that will be done by your administrator, company administrator. Okay, who will be working in the repository source code management administrator. They will do that. Until unless you are not working from the scratch or from a startup company to do all kind of setups. Now, I created a file and updated it, right? These things have been done now. Let me just update the file again with some other code. I'll just give first line of CPP code, something I wrote. Now I modified something here. If I do git status, so it is file is now modified. Earlier, as I created a new file, it was given created new file, right? It is now given file is modified. And I'll just quickly go with similar commands again, and the rest of the commands will go with our next in our next class. Okay, so I can do it here. Git add dot, I added it. Then git commit -m, give a message. I can give first line of code added. Of code added. Enter. Done. Let's check the log. Git log. See, this is the commit ID. This is the version. This is the commit ID, and this is the different commit ID. The first commit ID is this one, and here it will be. It was created a new message, and it is first line of code, and the user is this one. Now, if I do cat test.text cpp, we'll find two lines. We'll find two lines here. Okay, so how we'll get this revision versions, that will learn. Okay, you have to find it out. So for previous version, suppose you see this line has some issues and you want to see what was there in previously. If you want to, you can easily get it from the previous version. This is the old version, right? It was updated in 543 and it was 546. So you want to, if you want to get it, you can easily find it. Okay, now, so this is how you have to work. Let's go and check whatever the other commands are there. This is add and everything to test the file, right? To tell all modified file. I just give you to give the logs, status, everything is there. So that's all, guys, for today's class. Okay, I have some work to do. Maybe we can continue the rest of the things and we'll complete this Git in our. It is not much there. We'll complete it by next class. Okay, next to next class. Maybe another 2 classes will take both Git and GitHub.